Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. It's been a really great conference. I've learned so much. So thanks to all the presenters. And Erin, it's good to tag team this with you about coexistent approaches. And I am Ashley Hom with the U.S. Forest Service out of the Gunnison Ranger District, or on what we call the GMUG, which is the Grand Mesa Uncompadre Gunnison National Forest. So Jackie wrote a really nice little blurb right there, restoring our national forest, natural hydrology to improve water resources for people and wildlife. So thank you, Jackie, because that is really the mission of my job here at the Forest Service. So I appreciated that. And on the right-hand side, you'll see a photo from our project in Trail Creek, which is in Taylor Park. And I was really hoping to maybe do some before and after photos, but Mark Beardsley stole the show on that one, and he got the really fun part of showing you our project on Trail Creek. And Jackie asked me to talk about, so I go to the next slide, policy, mwah, mwah, mwah. Just kidding. I'm happy to talk about it, but it was kind of funny. Mark Beardsley also stole all my jokes, so if mine's a little dry, I will blame him. But so I thought we would talk a bit about the policy and some of our watershed goals on our forest. And kind of a motto I keep going back to is thank goodness for the solid science and the partnerships around this work, or none of this would be happening. I'm going to try to reduce that so you can see the whole thing. So I think one of the best ways to talk about policy is probably to talk about our project and how we followed policy and what it looked like kind of step by step to do this project. So here we are, Mark Beardsley standing in Trail Creek on the left photo. In the center, we have Allie's legs. On the far right is Allie DeGreasy. She is one of our contractors that has been monumental to all of this in this work. In that photo, we have Eli with one of our partners, High Country Conservation Advocates. Mark Beardsley is in the back of that photo. And then Dave Sutherland and Paul Planner. Jess Doran is missing, but that was kind of the crew that did this project. And so National Forest Foundation came to us in June and said, hey, Forest Service, would you like to have a grant from Coca-Cola to do watershed work in the Taylor? And we said, sure, we've been talking about doing some beaver work. Would that work? And they said, yeah, Coca-Cola knows all about BDAs. We said, really? Well, fantastic. So this had to happen very quick. The caveat was we will give you funding, but you have to spend it within the next 3 to 4 months before it snows. So this is a really quick turnaround for if you've worked with a federal agency. 4 months from no project to implementation is a quick ask of the agency. And so it took a lot of pulling together of our partners and of the Forest Service. So can you hear this? I was going to play, this was my theme song during the project.
Oh, journey, don't stop.
All right. It was the Don't Stop Believing song. I don't know if it came through, but we kept saying, don't stop believing, because it's a really quick turnaround for us. So trying to be opportunistic, trying to address these challenges on stream restoration projects and doing it really quickly. And so it really came down to just this idea of one step at a time. So to talk about this policy and challenge and success, I thought I'd kind of go through kind of 6 sort of steps that we took as a team. And so the first one, I'm going to dive into the forest plan and what that looks like. And what is a forest plan and why do we care as citizens? And then NEPA and being environmentally compliant. I'm going to talk about our core permit and talk a little bit about CPW and obstacles, and mostly the lack of obstacles, fortunately, for relocating beaver. And we had to work with a lot of county engineers and potential road conflicts. And lastly, my favorite, teamwork makes the dream work, because a lot of this is about partnerships. And one of my favorite slogans lately is in it together like never before. And that is something the Forest Service is trying to get better at, is being a better neighbor and being in it together with everybody, that these are public lands, public hands, and how do we co-manage all of our land for what it has broad public support from the community. So really quick, a little background. So if you're not familiar with the forest, we have national forests that are then have small districts within those. So I'm on the Gunnison Ranger District, but the forest is called the Grand Mesa Uncompadre Gunnison National Forest. It's a mouthful, so we usually just say GMUG. And That includes everything from Monarch Pass down to Lake City and Telluride, all the way west to Grand Junction, all the way north towards Aspen. It's a huge forest, and I am the only hydrologist on this forest, and that's 3.2 million acres of public lands, as I say, public hands. So actually with the water resources, we have more special uses than any other national forest in the nation. And the GMUG serves as critical headwaters. Protecting and sustaining these watersheds provides high quality, local source of 1.9 million acre per feet of water that's consumed by mostly Western Colorado, but it also feeds into southwest part of the US. And one of our main missions as a hydrologist is sustaining the region's ecosystems and wildlife habitat. So every forest, if you didn't know, every forest has a forest plan. And so what are they and why do we care? Our forest plan, it sets the overall management direction and guidance for the entire forest. So every time we have a project, we tie back to the forest plan. We say, what does the forest plan say? Does it say anything about what we'd like to do? It kind of identifies certain areas for certain use and activities. So it's a very important guiding document for everything that we do on the forest. We have to tie back to our forest plan. So the GMUG, we have a plan from 1982 and it was revised in 91. It mentions beaver once, which is very sad. Out of 408 pages, it says aspen along riparian zones is the basic food for beavers. Not very exciting. It's actually talking more about aspen than beavers. So it's a little discouraging. I'm not going to lie. Our current plan really doesn't speak to beavers. And so when we talked about Trail Creek, and the first thing we do is go to the forest plan, fortunately, our line officers and our district ranger, Matt McCombs, was ecstatic, very excited for us to be opportunistic with the funding, fully a beaver believer, and regardless of what the forest plan, we can find something in the forest plan that'll support this and let's move forward. On the really upside is we are revising our forest plan. If anyone is interested, you can go online and Google GMUG Forest Plan, and it's in a 90-day comment period. We're looking for the public to weigh in and help us revise our new plan. Our new plan should be signed within 2 years. The really cool thing is the new plan mentions beavers 21 times. So I'm pretty excited about that. It talks about supporting associated ecosystems. The new forest plan talks about maintaining beaver populations and the ecological function that beavers provide. It talks about management action should use techniques for sustaining beavers and things like reducing or using pipes to reduce water levels, notch dams. This is really exciting. We went from basically nothing about beavers to 21 times in the new plan. Again, this should be signed within the next 2 years. And this will really give us a lot more of a platform to stand on to go to pace and scale to really make some really big watershed impacts across the whole GMUG. Lastly, it talks about in the plan, it says that during every 10-year period of the plan approval, we're going to work on restoring 2,500 acres of riparian or wet meadow, at least 15 miles of stream. Also, we will be including implementation of erosion control, removal of conifer encroachment, promoting riparian plant species, road decommissioning, and reintroducing beavers where they can be sustained in other management actions. So this planning document is going to be really monumental for us moving forward to really have this to stand on. So the next thing is we did Trail Creek. So we said, all right, we looked at the forest plan. What's next? Next is NEPA. So we need, anytime we have ground disturbing activity, we have to go into what's called NEPA, which is an environmental compliance action. And fortunately, our leadership says, hey, I believe that we have broad public support and we have really solid science. There has been so much good science that's come out of this BDA work and has such a good reputation. This is a low risk project. We can do a categorical exclusion or a CE. Usually these can take a while, even though they're only 6 to 8 pages. We had to pump this thing out in about 3 weeks, which was really fun for our district because we're all pretty busy with a lot of other projects. So we had to have our engineers and our range folks and our lands and our wildlife biologists and our timber folks, our archaeologists, plant specialists, every single specialist in our office had to review the project. And so to get that done in 3 weeks in the middle of summer was a really big lift for our district. But fortunately, people, there's like I said, such a good reputation around this work. People see the ecological value and they want to be part of this project and they wanted to see the success. So in 3 weeks, we wrote a CE and had it signed by our district ranger. To get into the weeds, it was the 36 CFR for restoration of wetlands and streams and riparian areas. Anyone has to do a CE, you're welcome to cut and paste anything you like from this and to write your CE. No point in reinventing it if you don't have to. It is a public document, or you can email me and I'll send it to you. So the next step was a Corps of Engineer permit. So to be compliant with the Clean Water Act, to be compliant with law, anytime that we're working in wetlands and streams, we have to go to the Corps. So the hiccup here is that we needed to get this project done before the snow flies, and we have just completed our NEPA in August. And usually the Corps can be up to 50 days, I believe, turnaround, which would put us into December or a late November. And we're like, whew, that's not going to work. So we called the Corps and started working on that relationship with the Corps, said, here's the project. Again, working with the Corps, they knew all about BDAs. They know that it has a good reputation. They know the science is there to back it up. They gave it 24 hours and they approved our project, which was amazing because I thought, boy, if this goes into November, it's going to be a very cold project. You can see there we are working, Mark Beardsley in the back pointing where we're supposed to go and what we're supposed to do, and all planners in the mini excavator. And so we were really fortunate the Corps has confidence in these projects and understood what we were talking about. So I just felt like we were really lucky to have someone to work with in the Corps that already was well aware of this and didn't have us wait another 50 days to do the project, but they really helped us to be opportunistic with that funding. We explained the situation and they were really great to work with. So here's our permit. It is the nationwide 27 permit. And again, if anyone ever needs help with one of these, let me know. I'm happy to share what I learned from it. So the fourth step was, this area, we hope to really entice beavers. There is a beaver population about a mile away. If they don't come, CPW has looked at the area. Dan Zedra, who's fantastic, one of our local CPW coworkers, he is hoping to maybe transport any nuisance beavers to this area. And the cool thing is CPW in this county has a lot of leeway. They are able to trap and potentially relocate here. The nice thing is it's Forest Service above stream, it's Forest Service below stream, and then we're above a reservoir. So it is a low conflict area for those kinds of things. And so it could be a really nice place to bring in some beavers and repopulate this area. So fifth, one of the big things, one of the conflicts and one of the things that hurdles and challenges was working with the county. So the Forest Service, well, it's Forest Service land. We often ask the county to take over our roads through an agreement because every road mile the county gets, they get state money. Every road the Forest Service gets, we get no more money per mile. So it's really advantageous for us to ask the county to maintain. So the county maintains most of the roads in Taylor Park, north of Gunnison. And so if we're going to try to entice beavers, we also want to be thinking ahead how those beavers are also going to affect our roads and culverts. So thank you, Aaron Hall, for sharing about flow devices, because that is exactly what we're hoping to do with the county. In this photo, we've got a county employee, and then we have Allie DeGreasy and Paul Planner, our two local specialists that are in the Beaver Institute, and they are in the Beaver Institute to hopefully become these local experts, which they are coming very quickly on flow devices and all things beavers in our valley. So it's really great to have them on board and helping us. So the county here, you can see all those sticks on the far right photo, and that is from the excavator. They park an excavator there most of June and July, or July and August, and they just constantly have to pull out the beaver dam because the road is going to flood, which is a valid concern to have a road flooding. So this is one of the challenges in this area, just looking at this. So what I want to point out with that, because I find this pretty interesting, the photo on the left, those root wads that are exposed on the photo left. So every time the county comes in and rips out a beaver dam day after day after day, it is consistently lowering that water table and it's leaving these root wads high and dry. And so these root wads, they are slowly losing their moisture, and this area will slowly transition away from a wetland and become a sage and potentilla ecosystem. And we've seen that elsewhere on the forest. So if there's a way that we can work with the county with flow devices, pond levelers, and other devices, we can allow the beaver to flood these areas and maintain these wetlands that are so valuable. On the photo right, I've been really excited about this. So we've been finding these historic berms. So I'm from Minnesota. The Mississippi floods about every year. And so along in the Midwest, we've built big dikes or berms or sand piles, and that can keep the Mississippi within its stream course. And so it's kind of the same idea here that historically what Paul, the man on the far left in the photo, is standing on a small berm, and Allie's at the base. And what happened here is for as long as the road construction folks from Gunnison County can remember, the road never flooded. Well, that photo, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but the smaller red circle on the photo right, there's a small nick point in the berm. And with that nick point, water is spilling out onto the road consistently. And so the county has been clearing out day after day after day the beaver dam. Well, they're going to start to lose very valuable wetlands, and it's a really popular fishing spot. But if they keep ripping out the beaver dam, we're going to lose our fishing and our valuable wetland. So the county is going to work on just reestablishing this berm. This berm is easily 60 to 80 years old. It's worked for 60 to 80 years. It just happens to have a small nick point. And we hope that that will allow the county not to disrupt the beaver dam. So lastly on this thought, here's a really old historic berm in the red circle. We came out with the county here as well. And again, this berm I think is closer to 100 plus years. On photo right, there's a wagon road that's now a Forest Service road. And we believe photo right was all historically a wetland. But when this berm was built, it was built to keep the road dry and has transitioned a historical wetland into a dry sagebrush and grass area. On photo left, on the other side of the berm, is really beautiful wetland and beaver habitat. But again, the county has to park an excavator in the summer and consistently pull out beaver dams. So if there's a way here that we could extend this berm so it doesn't flood the road, they're kind of afraid it'll flood the road downstream of this photo. And so if we could berm that road, we can keep that these wetlands wetted by allowing the beavers to persist and their beaver dams. So just kind of a fun one to add into the toolbox of we have pond levelers and flow devices, and maybe doing a bit more of this berming. It's a very cheap and easy way to potentially keep roads and other areas dry from a wetland. All right, the last step in all of this, the fun part, teamwork makes the dream work. It's all about partnerships. So the really fun part about this project is we have had so much support. It's been a really fun project from that aspect. And the success of this project is because we've had so much broad public support. And in the spring of 2021, we formed the Gunnison Valley Beaver Believers. And thank you, Allie, for the really nice logo on photo left here. And we had a meeting in June, and we brought out national parks. And I think that's Nikki there, the national parks. And we had Forest Service and CPW. We had a lot of Western students. We had Western professors. We had a bunch of our HICA, which is High Country Conservation Advocates. We had ranchers and homeowners. Let's see, who else? BLM. It's been a really cool group to bring them out and talk about all of Gunnison County, not just Taylor Park, but what are we doing across the entire county? And why does it matter? And how do we get everybody to be a beaver believer? And what are the challenges around that? So this is just another photo of our partnerships and us coming out. This was a structure built in 2019 on CPW land. And so we went out and looked at kind of before and after. I think Jackie mentioned it. So Mark and his crew took these fantastic photos. I'm just going to end with them. This is at Trail Creek because I could just watch it over and over again. This is the restoration project. We put in about 50 BDAs. And so it's just kind of a really fun, Mark and his group of Ecometric did a really good job documenting, just seeing the changes there over a few weeks with the 50 BDAs. One of my favorite parts is you go from about 3 to 4 inches of water to so deep that you can paddle around in a sled with a shovel. So it's amazing how much water you actually attenuate. So thanks so much. And thanks so much to all of our partners, especially Mark Beardsley and Jess and Dave and Allie and Paul and Ashley Merkel and Eli and Joe and Jackie and Gunnison County and even Coca-Cola. Thanks, guys.